Welcome back to Splendid Tales, where stories hit harder than a double espresso and leave you questioning who's really in charge of your destiny. Today, we dive into a classroom that wasn't ready for chaos. Wolf strutted in like he owned the floor, his designer shoes squeaking like a middle aged man at Zumba. The kind of rich, spoiled kid who thinks empathy is a foreign concept and that wealth grants a license to be a human tornado of arrogance. Eyes flicking across the classroom like darts, he found his target, Miss Viola Brown, a teacher with a reputation as icy as the Arctic, but with a smile that could melt stone. You're kidding, right? Wolf sneered, grabbing her throat in a theatrically disgusting display of entitlement, like a peacock trying to show off to pigeons. The students gasped, some hiding under desks, others frozen in disbelief, but one thing was clear: he had no idea who he was messing with. Viola's calm was a weapon. Every fiber in her body radiated control. A veteran of places Wolfie wouldn't dare dream of. She didn't flinch, her eyes locked on his like twin lasers of quiet fury, the kind that makes your stomach curl. "You really think this impresses anyone?" she said, voice low but cutting sharper than any sword Wolf's trust fund could buy. The class chuckled nervously, unsure if they should intervene or just witness the inevitable downfall of a man-child in designer sneakers. Wolf scoffed, trying to reclaim his ego with words dripping in racist arrogance, but each syllable bounced off her like rubber bullets. He had no clue that the universe and Viola had plans for a lesson that would escalate faster than his privilege could shield him. If you're enjoying this chaos, make sure to like and subscribe for more splendid tales, because this is just the tip of the iceberg, and trust me, you haven't seen anything yet. Wolf's face turned a shade of red that money couldn't fix as Viola slowly, deliberately released his throat. The classroom was buzzing, whispers curling like smoke around every desk. "You really thought you could bully me?" she asked, arms crossed, every inch of her radiating controlled power. Wolf stammered, scrambling for a comeback, but words tripped over themselves like clumsy puppies. The arrogance that usually coated him like gold leaf was melting under the cold fire of her presence. She leaned in, calm but lethal, and muttered, "Some lessons you can only learn the hard way." Wolf's smirk faltered. Every racist jab he thought would sting bounced off her like she had a built-in immune system for nonsense. The students were riveted, some snickering quietly, some wide-eyed, some secretly thrilled that karma was having a field day. Viola didn't just stop there. With a mischievous glint, she assigned him a respect project, making him write letters apologizing to classmates, perform acts of kindness, and reflect on his toxic behavior. Wolf groaned, the sting of humility wrapping tighter than his designer belt. It was poetic, slow-burning humiliation, the kind that digs into your ego and refuses to let go. Meanwhile, the class couldn't help but watch the spectacle, and a few cheeky whispers of "like and subscribe if you're enjoying this" floated around, giving Viola an almost cinematic backdrop of chaos. Wolf realized, maybe too late, that this wasn't just a punishment. It was the beginning of a reckoning he would never forget. By the next morning, Wolf's ego was officially in rehab. He slinked into class like a cat who had just been dunked in cold water, avoiding every eye except Miss Brown's, who was perched at her desk with the calm of a chess grandmaster plotting a checkmate. "Good morning, Wolf," she said sweetly, voice sugar-coated poison. "Ready for today's kindness challenge?" His designer shoes squeaked embarrassingly as he shuffled to his seat, every student trying and failing not to smirk. The first task: deliver a handwritten apology to every student he had ever insulted. Each signature on the paper was a jab at his pride. Viola watched from the corner, amused, as Wolf's scrawling handwriting wobbled like a toddler learning to write. Next came the acts of kindness: holding doors, helping with assignments, even complimenting the janitor's impeccable broom technique. Every gesture was a tiny dagger into his inflated self-image. But Wolf, in his stubborn arrogance, tried to sneak a snide comment at lunch, only to find the cafeteria turned against him. Students whispered, plotted tiny pranks, and posted subtle memes on his phone when he wasn't looking. He had underestimated the subtle genius of collective student power, and Viola's influence was guiding it all. The universe seemed to conspire, every moment dripping with irony and poetic justice. Even amidst the humiliation, there was a hint of humor. Ms. Brown leaned over to a snickering student and whispered, "Like and subscribe if you're loving this meltdown. It's better than reality TV." Wolf's blush deepened. He realized that his toxic arrogance had made him the star of a show he never wanted to be in, yet the script was still being written, and Viola was the director with zero mercy. Wolf's final shred of confidence crumbled as Ms. Brown announced the last stage of his Respect project. He had to give a public presentation about his arrogance, entitlement, and every racist, toxic thing he had ever said. Standing before the class, notes trembling in his hands, he could feel every eye piercing him like lasers. Viola's calm, unyielding gaze made him realize how deeply he had underestimated her and the consequences of his arrogance. As he spoke, stumbling over words, every act of kindness he had performed that week replayed in his mind, each one a tiny dagger to his ego. The students watched in awe, some trying not to laugh, others snapping pictures to immortalize the humiliation. By the time he finished, Wolf was a shell of the arrogant, spoiled bully he once was, a living cautionary tale about entitlement and toxic behavior. Miss Brown finally smiled, victorious yet composed, while the classroom buzzed with whispers of respect and subtle laughter. Like and subscribe if you want more splendid tales. This one is pure gold, she teased, eyes twinkling. The bell rang. Wolf slinked back to his seat, forever changed. Miss Brown waved at the camera, a perfect reminder that patience, strategy, and the sweetest revenge can turn even the most toxic individual into a lesson everyone remembers.